So, y'all know that, of course, even with the complicated relationship that I've had with sex for majority of my life, I've received so much clarity in the past 2.5, 3 years through kind of just reflecting and exploring and educating myself around sex. I've been officially a certified sexologist for the past year. I've been teaching, educating others, doing my demonstrations, but also again, I'm a lifetime student, so I'm always learning, always making sure that I'm providing you guys with important information. And that said, this episode is going to continue to, provide more education as it relates to sex, and also get you guys thinking about how to reimagine sex when it comes to your own sex lives, right? Today, I do want to talk a little bit about what happens when you do have sex. So, as it relates to neurohormonal sexual behavior, right? Because you have neurotransmitters and then you have hormones. And these things interact before, during, and after sex, right? So I think part of the reason that I love sex so much is because the dopamine levels be high. Like, I be fiending for some dick, y'all. Like, I get a little antsy and shit like that, right? Sometimes. And I know it's because my hormone levels are shifting. And we all have hormones. We're human. We have hormones. We experience different desires, and desire is complex, right? And the level to which we experience desire is going to be different person to person. The hormones that we feel and we express are going to be different person to person, right? So that said, today's episode is really going to unpack that a little bit, because y'all know, if y'all been listening for a little minute, that I've been struggling as to whether or not I'm a sex addict. On the one hand, I would never accept that. Like, I would never walk around telling somebody like, yeah, I'm a sex addict. Like, I wouldn't do no shit like that. But also, there's no shame in it if I am. So I'm hoping to kind of get some clarity around that and unpack that shit, because y'all know I don't get it all. And if I was a sex addict, I think it'll make sense. But we'll see. So today I have a guest with me, and I'm hoping that she can kind of shed some light on this for me through having this conversation about, not necessarily, well, of course we're going to talk about our sex lives, but also I'm pretty sure that our sex lives also reflect the sex lives of some of you guys that are listening, right? You're probably going to be able to identify with some of the things that we're going to talk about. So that's it. We're going to get into the episode, and I'm going to allow my guest to introduce herself.
Hey y'all, my name is Brittany. I am a mental health therapist. I am also a certified drug and alcohol counselor as well. So I am familiar with the field of addictions. I also have, I'm an author. I have a book entitled The Things I Wish I Knew. And it really is just a guide for millennials, more specifically Black millennials, to learn certain mental and emotional concepts that the school system and our parents didn't teach us. It talks about boundaries, attachment, how you kind of, how the school system impacts how we grew up, coping skills, self-care, all the things that, we now have come to understand are really important when it comes to our mental and emotional well-being. I'm a speaker as well. I do podcasts, I do YouTube. Keeping It a Buck with B on YouTube is me. And I'm glad to be here because I just know you don't have a lot of guests, so I feel pretty privileged.
Yeah, because I'm not one of those people that needs guests, right?
I know that's right.
I feel like there are a lot of podcasters that if they don't got a guest, they don't got a show.
They don't have a show.
And guess what? Name My Show is PrHOEvocative. That's named after me. This is my show.
Right.
But also, again, I want to be able to entertain and educate people. So it's not one of those, oh, I'm just gonna have people on the show and then we just gonna like talk shit. Right. No. Exactly. We gonna talk some shit.
We are.
Which is fine. But we also gonna be able to,
give some value.
Yeah, we gonna put all the shit talking into context.
Absolutely.
So, can you kind of shed some light on what do you, based on like your studies or your experience, what happens when what happens to the mental when you engage in sex?
So, you beautifully just touched on a big part of that, which is the hormonal part as well as the neurotransmitter part. So, dopamine, serotonin, all the really feel good components that exist in our brain, oxytocin, all of it just gets to firing off. And that's why when we talk about addiction, we can compare it across a few different areas, because the same thing that happens when a person has sex is the same thing that can happen when a person hits big at a gambling event. The same thing can happen when a person hits that first puff of weed. The same thing can happen when a person takes a shot. All of these things kind of emulate even really good food, coffee for people. Like those types of things kind of erupt. You got people who are addicted to going to the gym, right? Again, same sort of physiological components that are kind of coming together to put you in this very elated state.
Right.
And so
I read somewhere that vasopressin increases in both a sexual context, but also if you was to go to the gym.
Exactly.
And vasopressin is the monogamy hormone.
Okay, look, and so you probably got me beat on knowing all the hormones and all the things as far as like
if it's related to sex.
Oh yeah,
I'ma know it.
No, but all of that pretty much works the same. So when people kind of struggle with having addictive personalities in one way or another, or things like, I like to say that we all have a vice. Like I don't really know a person who does not have any sort of vice. And when life sometimes be beating your ass or the world is ending, like that's what people like to, everybody wants to find something to turn to.
I be horny as shit, y'all. It get real bad. Like that's how I be knowing I'm going through something. Like it gets to a point, like if I get real sad, I'm like, why am I so horny?
See? And see, sometimes
in the moment I fuck, I'm straight now.
Right. No. And see, sometimes what happens is too much of something we hear is never a good thing. So we have certain levels that our body exists at, which we would call a baseline. Right. And so when you start to engage in something that feels really good for you, but again, you're getting an increase in these neurotransmitters and these hormones, it is shifting your baseline. And so now it's like, when I go without it, my equilibrium is here. And now my normalcy without doing that extra thing is down here instead of where it used to be.
Right.
And so that is why, it's really important sometimes to kind of find a balance in the things that we enjoy, because at a certain point, your body becomes adjusted to receiving that chemical response.
Yes.
More often than not.
Yeah, and what we know to be true about the law of diminishing return is that you're going to keep chasing that first one, right? You're going to keep chasing that first high. You're going to keep chasing that first orgasm. You're going to keep chasing that dick.
Yeah.
You're going to keep chasing you're going to keep chasing that pussy, whatever it was that made you like, damn, that shit was different. Exactly. That shit hit different. I want that again.
Yeah.
And if you keep first of all, if you keep engaging in something every day, now it don't feel the same.
Right.
No way.
The value diminishes.
Yeah. So that, but also it's like, when it comes to the hormones and neurotransmitters, the goal is it's okay for oxytocin to be high, but your dopamine got to be balanced.
It's the dopamine is what gets you. Yeah.
That motherfucking dopamine. That motherfucker, where that sex feel like dope.
Yeah. Literally. Literally.
That's the shit you gotta keep in check.
Exactly. No. Yeah, it gets rough for people because like you said, that dopamine starts to take off and then you forget what life was like without it.
Yeah. You might get sad.
Yeah, no, it's a struggle to regulate that. No, for real. So I think some of the things that I've heard you speak about as far as like, oh, am I addict? Like I try to tell people there are a couple ways in which we determine if somebody is in fact addicted to something, right? A few different components. It's not a foolproof system, you know. But of course you establish how often do you need it? How do you feel when you don't have it? Are you able to abstain from it? Is it causing disruption in other parts of your life, right? Do your family and friends have concerns about the amount of time in which you spend doing this? Have you neglected other responsibilities in order to do this? If you check most of those boxes, you probably got a bit of an addiction to something. So, and it's funny because I know, like, I heard you say, like, I'm not gonna lose my house behind sex, right? And see, something that addicts do is they look at probably the more extreme versions of what they think that addiction looks like, and they're like, oh well, I don't do that, so I'm not an addict. You'll see somebody, I've been in treatment with people who have alcohol, you know, who have different addictions to drugs and alcohol, and a guy who goes to work every day but comes home and knocks back a fifth of Hennessy or 10 beers, and he'll look at the guy who binge drinks on the weekend and gets arrested
functioning
and feel like
functioning alcoholic.
Exactly. So once people feel like they continue to function, it's like, oh, I'm not an addict. But however, if again, the category of things that I just named, if you struggle with some of those, you leaning on that side of addiction.
I might be tiptoeing.
Yeah, you probably walking the line.
Yeah, like I might be teeter-totter. Like I might be skipping around that motherfucker and they're like running away, but like psych, here I am. I think I might be teasing the line of being an addict because, for example, I'll say if I know I have to be somewhere at a particular time, right? And I'm like, I got 7 minutes to spare. I'm probably gonna masturbate to fill in that 7 minutes. Now, that's one case. I have also been late to shit because I'm like, I'm finna masturbate first. I'm finna masturbate first. Like I was supposed to like, I made I scheduled something with a friend. I was like, yeah, we gonna get in a studio, whatever at this time. At the time I said we was gonna do it, I was masturbating. And then after I was done, I was like, yeah, I'm on my way. Because I had to do that first. Like that was important to me. So I kind of viewed it as prioritizing what was important to me in the moment. Right? I still got to what I was supposed to do. Yeah. So I don't think it was a cause for concern because it still got done.
Look, you were able to justify it, right? And most people are able to justify.
I justify a lot of fuck shit. So let's get that first of all. If y'all know I be justifying some shit. It's kind of
when there are things we want to do, we gonna find whatever reason, justifications to do it. You gotta ask yourself, how do I feel about knowing that I did that? And if I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think it was kind of clever.
Okay. All right. Well, friend, look, again, if it can you go without it? And I like to take people's examples or like their narrative of how they use their vice and like put it in other contexts, like of another behavior. So if somebody said that they had everything you just said, but they needed to take a shot first, or they needed to sniff a line of coke first. Like, would you? I mean, how would you look at it?
I don't be judging people.
Okay, I mean, again, that's just
that's what I'm saying. Like, if motherfuckers like, yeah, I was late, I had to drink first. I'm like, all right, you just had to pregame first. You lit. Am I an enabler? Oh shit. I be telling people, like, if you want to get talked out some shit, you probably shouldn't come talk to me because I'm like, do it.
Look, so if that's what you needed,
I might be problematic.
The first step is just becoming aware. I'm just here to bring different perspectives.
But sometimes the first step for me be the last.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, and people tell me that all the time. Like, the first step is accepting it, and I'm like,
But I'm gonna still find a way to.
No, like, ain't no other step. Yeah. Like, it's one step to get in there. Like, it's not a flight of steps. It's one.
Yeah. You just the person that be with the shits,
and that's what it is. I be with the shits. Like, it's to the point where don't come here if you want to get talked.
Yeah. And I mean, with that example, it's one thing for certain things to happen, and it's a one-off. Mm-hmm. If you have a standing appointment with somebody, and they're always late, and they're like, "Sorry, girl, I had to do what I had to do."
Yeah,
and
now I don't do that. Now, because that's the thing too. I do value other people's time, but again, in that case, when I did that, honestly, I didn't value their time as much as I valued my nut in that moment.
Yeah, right.
I can accept that, but. If I gotta stand an appointment, I'm definitely not finna, every week I'm late. Like, come on now, bro. Yeah. I'm just gonna, masturbate earlier.
Okay. Well,
yeah, like, I'm good at scheduling.
It's interesting because I have a part of my assessment with people is we get to impulsive behaviors. And in that category, you have things like binge eating, any sort of eating disorder behaviors, making yourself throw up, gambling, excessive use of social media, excessive spending, and also excessive masturbation or sex, or excessive amounts of like watching porn. Mm-hmm. And so it always catches me a little by surprise when I get to the masturbation part of it, and people are like, like most of the time, like people will own it and they'll be like, yes. And so most people don't say yes. But so when you get those few people that do say yes, that they feel like they excessively masturbate, or they ask, so what's excessive? So I'm like, do you do it every day?
So I have periods of sporadic excessive masturbation. And I've said that multiple times.
You binge masturbate.
Yeah. Like, and I like the same way I would binge a TV show, like I'll binge masturbate. Like, it might be a week where I'm like, I am masturbating like crazy. And then I'll go like 2 months without touching myself.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
Yeah, like I'm a binger. I mean,
you kind of know your patterns, right?
Yeah, like, but I'm like that with, again, I'm a very intense person. Like, I am a very intense person, and I know that about myself. I know that when I'm here, I'm here. When I'm there, I'm like, yeah. I either care about everything or I don't give a fuck about nothing. Like, Yep. You could die in front of me right now and I wouldn't shed a tear. Like, it's like very extreme. So I know that I'm an extreme person. I know that I'm a very intense person. When it comes to even when it comes to watching TV series, I have to binge it or I'm not watching it. Like, I will schedule like, all right, cool. I'm not going to do anything this weekend because I'm going to watch this TV show nonstop. Yeah. I'm like, so I get, and then again, I'll like go from binge watching something for 2 days and then not watch TV at all for a month.
Okay.
So it's funny because I believe I heard either Reggie or Terry say this. They were like, how you do one thing is kind of how you do everything. And I'm like that. Like, even when I record this show, I be recording like, for like a week, I'll record like 20 episodes. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And now, I mean, and sometimes that works because now it's like, I can just put this shit out and I ain't got to worry about it until I'm ready to go again. But I'm pretty sure if you took like a personality test, like there's a category for people like you who are very much all or nothing, like super intense and like, or done,
Yeah, and so, it get crazy over here sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And, if I was your therapist, we would have to sit and talk about, like, how that positively or negatively affects your life and your way of doing things, right? And is there space for us to find more of a balanced way of existing?
And it's like, it's funny because, like, I started to think about how unbalanced of a person I am. I don't think I'm very balanced, like, at all. And I don't know how to find balance. I genuinely do not know how to find balance. It's like, all right, I'm either super into this or I'm not. I'm either like gonna dedicate my whole life to it or I'm not. Like, where I don't know how to find the middle ground for things. I don't know. Like, when people like, oh, you gotta like pace yourself. What's a pace?
What's a pace? Yeah, and I think the work that would have to be done is kind of identifying how your feelings and thoughts associate with one another when you engage that way, right? Like, what what feeling does that give you, and what feeling do you lack if you don't operate in that way? And what is your brain telling you? Like, what beliefs or values are you holding that say, I have to do this way, or this is what's most efficient for me?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. No. Again, this is just rhetorical. It's just these are things that, again, like, you would kind of dig through if you were, brought this to a therapist and was like, yeah, I'm an all or nothing person. And so we even call all or nothing thinking a cognitive distortion, right? It is I don't want to necessarily say a flaw, but a distortion in how your brain processes certain events. And it doesn't give room sometimes for the things that we need in life in order to either like have conflict resolution, reconcile, forgiveness, like all of these things that kind of require
I struggle with those things. I struggle with conflict resolution. I either get super dramatic and I blow up.
Yeah.
Or I don't say anything at all. Like, there's no like, all right, I'm gonna calmly bring this to you. It's like, I'm so upset.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
and
care.
A part of that again is emotion, how you're regulating your emotions in that moment, and what are your thoughts telling you about that interaction. You know, so we have to, again, like, peel back some layers, dig about like, where did you learn that things needed to be all or nothing? Let's go all the way back. And who did you see that acted in that way or told you that that was the way that things needed to be?
Yeah. I'm gonna really think about that. I'm pretty sure my grandma fucked me up.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Sometimes it's a lot of people who can relate to that. Sometimes that's what happens.
I think it was my abuelita, y'all. I think it was her fault. I think it was hers. I don't know. That's interesting. Of course, again, me knowing, and it's not like we're talking about something that I didn't know about myself, right? But also, it's like, just like, okay, where the hell did you learn this behavior? It's like, oh shit, where did I learn this behavior?
No, that's what really gets people, is having to like think about where it stemmed from. Because I always tell people, most of the trauma or the shit that you carry around with you, you didn't plant it there. It didn't grow there overnight. Like, somebody put it there.
Yeah. God damn it. Okay. All right. Let's pivot a little bit. Because of course I said that I don't think I have enough sex to be classified as an addict, right? Now, I think about sex every day, all day. I talk about sex most times, right? I don't talk about sex as much as I think about sex, but everything almost always can turn into sex for me.
Okay.
So if somebody says something that's remotely in the gutter, I'm taking it. I'm like, ain't no, oh, why did you? I'm going straight. I'm going there. It don't matter the time of the day. It be 7:00 in the morning. I'm taking it there. Like, that's hilarious. I'm every single time. If there's an opportunity for me sexual. I love the gutter. I love the gutter. I am going to the gutter. Gutter ball. Like, I'm there.
People like you keep life interesting.
Yeah. And I hear all the time, like, oh my God, it's too early for that. Like, hell, morning sex is the best. Like, you can't, like, I feel like, no, I'm going to talk about sex all day, every day, right? I'm a perv. I am a fucking perv. I accept that about myself, right? I feel like oftentimes people, use these words and they have all these negative connotations, but that I'm not afraid of that. You think I'm afraid of a negative connotation? I don't give a shit.
I mean,
like,
it only has as much power as you give it.
Yeah, like somebody's like, like again, even like jokes that are supposed to be like, oh, like, you gonna catch a case, and it's like, all right, whatever. Like, now I'm be like, you don't want to put a person like me in jail, because then I'm just gonna be in jail bumping coochies. Like, now I'm like, now what? Like, I'm not gonna learn my lesson.
Yeah. But you know what I'm picking up? What? Like the fact that you have spoken about that period of time when you first started having sex after your abuse, where sex meant nothing to you. You were very callous about it.
Yeah.
And now in your adult life, you're callous about how it comes up in conversation, right? And even though you kind of gone through this phase where like you've reclaimed it, like reclaimed your sexuality, reclaimed your relationship with sex, parts of it still are very like normal. Like, no, we don't make this taboo. If we're gonna go there, then I'm gonna go there. I'm callous about it, and that's just, how I treat it.
Yeah, because the only difference is it's like, okay, back then I'm not talking about it. Now you can't stop me from talking about it. But it's still kind of like the same behavior almost, right? Yeah, because I'm very like, this is normal for me. Like, normal conversations are sexual conversations for me. And on the other hand, it should be. It should be. Sex should be a normal conversation. People should not be uncomfortable talking about sex.
Yeah, you'd be so surprised. It's like, I work with couples, and sometimes I always, 9 times out of 10, have to bring the topic of sex to the table. I have to, like, if we get into so much other stuff, kids and how to marry, all these other components, and sometimes I look and I'll be like, we have not talked about you all sex life. Let's talk about it, right?
See, that's the first thing. I'm like, look, let me tell you how I'm doing sexually. All that other shit, I don't know how to process it, but sexually, we can go there. We can talk about that.
Yeah, and so you notice how uncomfortable sometimes people get.
Yeah,
and
people
not only just with like me there, but more so like talking about it.
They can't talk to
one
each other.
Another. Like, so how don't we, how do we not know that someone feels like we aren't having enough sex? Someone feels like, there are things, intimacy things that may be missing in order to increase the amount of sex that we're having. Like, I often get into these conversations with them, and I'm like, how long was whatever was going on going to keep going on if I didn't bring this up? And so once we kind of open the door, then it's like, okay, yes, this is the space for us to talk about, what that looks like. And I'm like, this is how we improve relationships. This is how we get needs met, by talking about it. But again, I think we still carry a lot of, especially women, carry a lot of the construct and narratives around sex that have kept, that have been oppression to us for so long. And we get into a space where we don't really know how to ask for what we need, or, sometimes women expect men to know, like, okay, yes, I need intimacy. I need you to warm it up before it gets warmed up. Like, I need the works. And
it's definitely the education aspect of it, because, for example, you have men looking to women to say, you need to tell me what you want, or, how you like things, right? But because as women, our sexualities are so repressed, a lot of us don't fucking know. We genuinely don't know. And not only do I not know, but how am I supposed to explain that to you if I don't fucking know? I can't explain to you that I want you to do something different, because I don't know what that something different is. I genuinely do not know. And then men are getting their sexual education from porn. So they're not doing 30 minutes of foreplay porn. So we
grew up with mixed messages.
Yeah, like totally mixed messages. So men are expecting women to just know how to communicate that. Yeah. Women are expecting men to just know how to fuck us. Right. And it's not working. It's not working.
And you have the ego component of it as well.
the ego on both sides is crazy.
Exactly. Like being able to give and receive quality feedback, and not let that, be a shot at your ego or your pride, but more so like, how do I succeed at making my partner happy?
And you know what? I feel like this is when I knew that I was really good at sex, when I began to accept feedback. Because my ego is no longer in it. And I just make it sexy. Like, no, I want you to tell me what you want me to do. Like, that's how you do it. Like, you take your ego out of it and you make everything sexy. You make him teaching you how to fuck him sexy. So you get super submissive. You're like, okay, tell me how you want me to suck your dick. Tell me how you want me to rad you. Like, now they'll be like, shit.
Right. And if you know men, that's going to get them worked up. You know what I mean? So
they love telling bitches what to do.
Right. So sometimes, yes, you may have to get a little creative with the language, but the conversations need and should be happening, because like you said, the only way we're going to figure out what's actually liked and what is pleasurable for the other person is to ask them, is to have them, guide you and to learn more about yourself. I'm somebody who was a late masturbator.
Yeah, same. I didn't really start masturbating until I turned 30. So exactly. I've been masturbating for 3 years and I love it here now.
So like my last few years, I probably started right around the pandemic.
Same.
And what led,
I was in the house a lot. I was bored.
Yeah. So what led up to that for me was I've been going these gaps without having sex. So I want to say if we go a span of the last 5 years, I probably went 8 months, a year, and now I'm in 2.5 years, right?
Shit.
And so that's just kind of how the.
But you know what's crazy? I don't think so. And you know how like you see the Facebook statuses when guys be saying like, why every time I meet a motherfucker they say they ain't had sex in X amount of months, but it's like, hey, it's not a lot of good sex out, like,
bro.
It's not a lot of quality sex partners out here, first of all. So, but also with women, if we know the odds are stacked against us, men gonna come regardless. Us having like a pleasurable experience is
taking a chance on it.
You're taking a chance where 7 times out of 10
it's not going to hit the way you need it. It ain't gonna hit. And that has also been a challenging part of my journey. Is like going those spans and then having sex with somebody who's not knocking me through the frame, bro. Yeah, it's like and then you always kind of go back and you compare it to your best. Like, bro, like, why can't I find that again? Yes. Not attached to that toxic nigga.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand. And you know, you try not to.
But that's why I
compare,
think
but it's hard.
And you know what? It's this. So I don't know if people that I've had sex with will classify me as toxic. However, I think there is a science behind somebody with some trauma having some fire between their legs, because a nigga that's been through some shit, a nigga that damn near been homeless, been living out of
There's a reason why homeless niggas have a reputation.
They will fuck you out your keys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Every single time.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And so, it's not hard to go spend some time, especially when you're somebody like me who desires an emotional connection, right? And I want not necessarily we ain't gotta go together, but like you gotta show some type of consistency around here for me to feel like I want to go there with you. And half these niggas can't get past the first and second date. Like
I love and it's like, even though I'm super like, sex is sex. I know that the best sex, the most optimal version of sex that I can have is with someone that I share a certain type of energy with. It's an energy exchange, right? That's where I know, like, all right, this is the peak of the type of sex that I can have. I can have some good sex with basically anyone because I'm a sex coach. Like, I'm like, all right, cool.
You know how to do what you need to do.
Right. I'm like, all right, if I want this to be good, it's going to be good. But if I don't care for it to be good, it's just gonna be what it is. But I've gotten to a point, again, because of educating myself. I'm like, all right, cool. If this person is a certain size, I know certain positions that I need to do. I know that, all right, cool. I'm gonna do anal with you, not with you though. I know how to, like, you know. And then also I have this thing where I know how to make my sex partners feel like they the shit. You the shit. And that is just me being seductive. Like, there's an art to that as well.
Absolutely.
And the more you make the person that you having sex with feel like you want to be there, guess what? They're gonna exchange that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's an energy thing. But again, I have to, I gotta be like, all right, cool, I want this to be good sex. Versus like someone where it's like, no, we naturally have good chemistry. Even if it's a quickie, I don't have to try for this to be good sex. It's guaranteed to hit different every single time. So I definitely agree with you on like that. You need an emotional connection. For me, it's not the emotion is not to the extent of the. First of all, guys, there are a lot of different emotions. Emotional connection does not mean you have to be in love.
Right.
But you damn sure gotta be in like.
Yeah, some trust there, some excitement.
I've sexually trust people that I know I don't really like, I don't know if I really like you, but I trust you sexually. I trust you in this space.
Yeah, you're able to compartmentalize
I feel
that.
safe in this, and I'm very huge on, and I think even the way I view sex, I have to compartmentalize in a lot of different ways, because I'm also like a super freaky kinky motherfucker. So because I'm a super freaky kinky motherfucker, I gotta be able to be like, all right, cool. If we do this thing, it's not gonna make me spaz later because we done unlocked this new level of my pussy. Like, so I think that's important to note as well, because some people, you know, when you try different things, then you're like, damn.
Money suck my dick from the back like that.
Like, you ain't going nowhere.
No, that chemistry is different. I feel like every man who I had amazing sex with, I knew it before we even got there. Like, I was like, this shit, something about the chemistry of it just tells you like this is going to hit so hard. And unfortunately, the men who I've been like unsure about, and again, maybe like you said, a part of it may be you in that situation, like you going into it feeling like, oh, I don't know if I'm getting big dick energy from him, and so like there's a hesitancy.
I've been pleasantly surprised more often.
I love that for you.
Yeah, I love it for me too.
I end up disappointed a lot.
No, I'll be like, all right, whatever. I'll see what's to it, and I'm like, oh my god.
You brought dick too?
Shit. Love it here.
No, that I love that for you, because it definitely, I think that's something else that has, like I said, has slowed down my trajectory of like giving niggas a chance. Is like the last time I broke my love fast, this shit wasn't worth breaking. And now I'm starting all over. And it's damn it like I'm a born again version again. So like I want this to kind of like be, I don't need to, I was having a conversation with somebody on another podcast where I said I've hit this space where I'm in between if I want to continue to wait for me to meet somebody who I feel like has enough potential and we can actually build some consistency and like all of the things, right? To decide to have sex, or if the next person I just feel insanely like sexually attracted to and we have like chemistry, if I would just go just to ensure that like this is going to be worth it.
So what makes it not worth it when it comes to your sexual experiences, right? Because I know, like, for example, with me, when I started, like, my whole phase, right? And I'm like, okay, this sex is okay, right? I've not, honestly, people ask me, like, oh, tell me about a bad sex experience. I'm like, I don't really have those. I don't have a lot of bad sex experiences. I have mediocre sex. Yeah. Because that's the thing, too. Like, you cannot compare the sex you were having 5 years ago to the sex you have today, because now you have more experience, right? I compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Yeah. So I don't look back and romanticize what the hell was happening 10 years ago and saying like, oh, that was the best. Like, no. I'm looking at stuff like, all right, if this happened in this span of 2 to 3 years, these are my best partners, and this is how I feel about it, and this is why it was what it was. But also, I don't compare, for example, I would never compare someone that I was having sex with before I became a sexologist to after. Yeah, no. Because they getting two totally different versions of me, too. So that can't even be compared. Yeah. Like, anybody, if you are a listener and I fucked you, if you are listening and I fucked you and you fucked me before I became a sexologist, I feel sorry for you, because I promise you, it's different. It's different.
And I like the way that you said that, because I kind of tell couples when I work with them a similar thing. Like, it's very easy to compare how your partner behaved and what they did and all the stuff that you didn't like before we got here. And so now that we are working on, they learning new things, new knowledge, we're working on implementing new behaviors. Judge them for where they are now.
Exactly.
So no, absolutely. I think for me, when we talk about like, and I won't say I've had bad sex, I've had mediocre sex. I'll go with that. Mediocre is actually a word that I typically use to describe my not 10 out of 10 sexual experiences.
Yeah, like it's like, you know, fast food. Like it did the job. Like I'm not hungry no more.
Right. And I think so,
it wasn't that home cooked meal.
Right. And you know what I think was a turning point for me was when I finally got with a partner who was giving me consistent orgasms and multiple orgasms in one setting. That was a turning point for me. And unfortunately, after that, it became like, if I can't get at least
if
now
you like the bar raised.
It was raised so high. And that was probably like 2019-ish when I was messing around with him. So it was like everything up until then, it was like, oh, this is my boyfriend, this is sex, like it's not bad. And that's not to say I've maybe had 2 other partners before him who were able to make me orgasm, but for a minute it took me a while to realize what my orgasm was, right?
Yeah.
So niggas be like, did you come? And you be like, yeah, but like
lying.
It wasn't.
Oh my God.
It wasn't until
for the first, I want to say 12 years of me having sex, I was lying.
Because you just think like you like
sure.
And then you learn the difference between coming and having an orgasm, right? Like did stuff come out my coochie, or is this a outer body feeling?
Exactly.
They're different.
And if y'all don't quite understand, we will explain that shit right now. Coming is just ejaculation, right? An orgasm is when your
full body
levitates. When your body, that is the feeling behind. Like that is when you that is when you feel like your soul is meant to come out your body.
You finna float. I knew what it was for me is because, and this is just across the board, I am a crier. But I'm a crier in life. I'm a crier when I'm happy. I'm a crier when I'm mad. So the fact that my telltale sign of an orgasm was feeling like I was about to cry was like on the money. I was like, oh my God, that's it. Like, and I remember scaring one guy. He was like, are you okay? And I'm like, Jesus, please, like,
I love you.
like literally, like, and it clicked for me. So like, had you know, a couple guys who were able to make that happen, like 2 or 3. But again, when I got with him, and it was a combination of being extremely attracted to the man as well as penis size. Penis size is big for me. I am a size queen, unfortunately. So I've had a couple that just weren't up to par on the sizing that I would prefer. And I also think sometimes that gets me in my head. Like if we gearing up to have sex for the first time and I feel, and it's not the feel that I was hoping for, it's like shit. But if I really like a man, baby, that little 4 inches might feel like the world when I'm in love with you. But
girl,
the moment I'm not,
the hell it ain't. That 4 inches is still fucking 4 inches.
Again, it's still not. It's not mind blowing. But me having emotion for you and caring about you to the extent where I will give you feedback and you will listen and we will talk about, like, I feel like men like that. That's when I started to say, especially after I started masturbating, okay, can we bring a toy into the room?
Yeah. I'm huge on the toy shit, right? But also I think what's super important when it comes to size, right? Because I said earlier, like, all right, if somebody a certain size, I know some workarounds, right? I know how to still make it pleasurable. Because there are things that whether you are big, medium, or small, you can do that very, very pleasurable.
Right, you learn.
For a woman.
You learn
especially, you know, as a hetero, flexible female like myself, I can get pleasure from bumping coochies. So if I get pleasure from bumping coochies, I can definitely get pleasure from a smaller penis. Right. Now, is that my preference? Still no. However, I can still have pleasure. It's like, all right, my favorite restaurant is this 9-inch nigga over here, right? That's my favorite. However, I'm fine with having sushi over here. Like, it's okay, right? I can still enjoy it for what it is.
Right.
But with that, it's like different things that you can do. Like, you know, you could edge. You can, you know, I just dropped an episode on edging more recently, right? If you edge somebody, hey, it don't matter what the fuck you stick up in them. No. If you edge them long enough, they gonna squirt. They gonna they gonna go crazy.
I think because I've hit the peak of my sexual exploration with masturbating in probably like the last 2 years, I haven't been able to apply this new knowledge that I have about making myself come. And a lot of it, once I learned like the sensations that are pleasurable to me, what goes on in my brain, because we know that orgasm comes, like some of that is
you have to be present, where you are mentally,
right? And you have to ride that feeling and understanding when I need to loosen my body versus being tightened, right? So like all these new things that I found out about how I get my orgasms, I ain't been able to try with somebody yet.
And that's why it's like, so this is what I think, right? So the people that are super focused on size, because again, I'm not going to say that I'm not a size queen, because I still have my favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
Still love it.
Better than
Still love it over here.
Okay.
However, if it ever comes a point where I don't have access to my favorite restaurant, I can still be here and be satisfied because I know about all of these other. I know about the other things on the menu, right? I don't have to just like, all right, I'm gonna go over here.
Right.
I do a lot of food analogies. I like dick and food, so I always compare the two. They both make me happy. But I definitely think that once you understand, and then here's the thing too. I tell people this all the time. Sex is more than penetration.
Absolutely.
It's so much more than penetration.
Yeah.
So if you focused on size, then you're not really having sex the way you're supposed to, because you should be able to have an extremely pleasurable sexual experience way before he sticks his dick in you to begin with.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, learning now my rhythm of sex based on how I masturbate, it's like I can now give somebody a roadmap to this. Whereas before, it was just like either you hit the jackpot or you didn't. And I didn't have much feedback to give you. I was just like, I just know what feel good. But like being more vocal, which I think is what is most important, is being able to communicate, like, and not be shy about it. Like, yes, I like when you start rubbing me real slow in a circular motion and then you drag it up and then you pull it like down, like being able to be descriptive and step out your comfort zone and be able to communicate those things just based on that pleasure, then the sky's the limit. And like I like that you said, you know, it's not all about penetration, because I don't use penetrative toys. My rose,
I don't use penetrative toys either. Like, if I want to get penetrated, I need a nigga. I need a nigga.
I learned early on that wasn't my thing. Like my first 2 toys, I bought one that was kind of like hooked, and I tried, and I was like, I don't like that. And then I bought a bullet, because I figured like that.
I don't like the bullet.
I got the bullet because I felt like I needed more precision, and it did what it needed to do. But baby, the rose is me and Ricky Rose. We are
So my rose I only use as a backup to my squirrel. So
okay, I want to see what the squirrel look like.
So the squirrel is similar to the rose in because it's a suction device. However, the tail vibrates as well. So
my bitch, she look like a real squirrel.
It looks exactly like a real squirrel, and it gets all my nuts, guys. I
love it.
But what I love about that, right, is
it's a squirrel. It gets all my nuts.
It does.
They're just connected.
So the rose, right? It has like, I'm huge on like rhythm. I need a very specific rhythm at a very specific at the pressure. Right? The pressure is what gets you. In the rhythm have to be exactly where they need to be, right?
Yeah.
So with the rose is a bit intense.
Okay.
For what I need, right? Like, I like pressure, but relax. Like, fucking relax. Because sometimes I gotta use the rose with my panties still on, because I need a barrier. I need a barrier here. Like, look. No, like, fucking relax. But the squirrel, like the first 3 settings on the rose are like like 5, 6, and like 4, 5, and 6 on the squirrel. So it goes backwards. Okay. So you can ease up until like into
meanwhile
that.
With the rose, you have the pulsating.
Like that shit go.
It takes off.
And then it starts. It varies, and I'm like, no, I don't want that shit. I don't want to go zzz, la 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 la. Like what the fuck?
And see that's
be pissing me off.
That's my jam.
You know how when motherfuckers be like, stay right there, and then you go up, and it's like, wait, you not there no more.
So when I want to edge is when I use like boom boom zzz, boom boom zzz,
like that shit be that. Stuff like that. That like it pissed me off a little bit because I like I need the consistency. I still need it to be that exact same frequency, but I need the pressure to gradually increase. So the squirrel for me gets me where I need to go because it's the exact same frequency, but it increases in the pressure. So literally it's like you take the first 3 settings on the rose, but you keep going. It's just those three.
Okay.
And then you just keep, so that I'm like,
I'm curious. I'm curious.
Like,
but no, for real. I definitely understand what you're saying. I feel like for me, I've worked with it so long where I kind of, like I said, I know my rhythm, and I also know like lighter touch, deeper touch, pressure, right? And I have to use my sort of gauge to be able to do that. But the rose is what made me squirt for the first time.
Yeah, I squirt off the rose, but I squirt off the squirrel. But the thing with me is, okay, I got a little clit, right? Okay. So because it's little, I be having to like really put it.
Jamming it, yeah.
Yeah, like it gotta.
It's like once my shit is in the neighborhood,
be on there.
Yeah,
no,
once my shit
gotta
in the neighborhood,
be on there.
I'll take off.
No, I be like, come on, it's playing hide and go seek again, peekaboo, motherfucker. Like, come out, the fuck.
Yeah, but like you said, once I kind of know that sensation and I get there, it's like, all right, now you just need a rhythm, and once you find a rhythm, it's go time. But I always surprise people when I tell them, like, I've never squirted with a man. I've only squirted with a toy.
I squirted with a man first, right? So I got lucky because it ain't like niggas out here making
bitches squirt like that.
They not really doing that, right? But squirted with someone for the first time. And as soon as we was done, I was like, all right, am I finna block this nigga? I think I don't need this in my life. I don't need this in my life. This nigga not finna have me.
Look,
hiding behind the bushes and shit.
Why you being weird to me?
Hiding behind the bushes and shit. Ain't finna get me. So
I was getting married.
Yeah, like, and what ended up happening is I ended up in a very toxic situation with him for the next 5 years.
Ooh.
So when I finally came up out of there, right? When I, once I came up off of him, that was the second long-term relationship I was in, because I'm like, nigga, we go together.
Okay.
We go together. But that was that. Now, I did end up, so after that, I ended up masturbating, and then that's why I was like, ooh, like, yeah, this is a thing. Like, I really can squirt. Like, this is a thing, right? But also what I realized was that, it's a button, right? At the end of the day, it's a button. It's a button to be pressed. Yeah. You can press it via penetration, or you can press it via constant stimulation of the clitoris. Yeah. And so, as someone who has experienced it in both ways, now my greedy ass be wanting dick at the same time while I'm using a squirrel, because I want to just
know the maximum experience. And that's why, like, I hope any future partner that I have understands that the rose is now your teammate. Yeah. Right. And it's not that I don't trust you to get the job done. It's the fact that I know that as a team, you shall not fail me.
You know what? This is how I look at it, right? Because, again, sometimes I'm a greedy bitch. Yeah. I know that about myself, right? Like, yes, I was very satisfied with this full course meal of dick that you just provided me, but now I want dessert, and I'm finna go get this toy. And guess what?
Because the fact of the matter is, as much as you love dick, a dick just does not vibrate. And the vibration, and more men would know this if they were into like trying cock rings and stuff. They would know the power of vibrations. They take things to another level. And that's why I hate the whole conversation about people who masturbate with toys too much. You wearing your coochie out. It's gonna get like, you're desensitizing it, and it's like,
so you telling me that out of these thousands of nerve endings that is in my entire clitoris, because y'all think that the clitoris is just the fucking button. It's not. It's bigger than that. You telling me that no, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. Now, am I maybe training my body to react to a certain type of stimulus in a way that it might start to, it might take me a little longer to get aroused with you? Right. Maybe. Right. But again, people are different. And it comes down to what is going to make sense for your sex life, right? Absolutely. Me, I know what works for me. And I know what would be too much for me, to the point where I'm like, okay, I know that if I introduced a partner in this space right now, it might not be a easy transition to incorporate a partner here. But that comes with, again, you have to know yourself. You have to know what's gonna make sense for, you and your partner. But where I am now, man, look. And here's the thing too, when it comes to sex toys, it's more than just, vibrators.
Right.
Like, it's so many different toys out there. I like sensory deprivation.
Okay.
Like, gag me, tie me up, hog tie me. Like, look, you can hog tie me. Like, I'm with that shit. Like, blindfold me, like, smack my ass. Like, I like stuff like that. I'm really into BDSM. So guess what? When I say I got toys,
it ain't
I ain't talking about no rose.
Okay, no, I hear you on that.
I'm gonna pull out a gag, some fucking nipple clamps, some fucking whip.
That's the only way you know is to just get into stuff and to try different things. And I think that is why trust is such a big component of sex, or it should be, is because like you cannot allow yourself to go there, even if it comes to an orgasm or just in exploration of sex, if you do not trust the person in which you are engaging in that activity with.
Facts. Okay, so I want to transition a little more to talk about your lack of sex. I want to get into that a little more because I went, for example, myself. I didn't have sex for like 9 months last year.
Okay.
And I was miserable.
Okay.
I was fucking miserable. I was going through it. But also because it was so long, and there was some other stuff going on last year as to, it wasn't like, oh, I'm not having sex because I can't find a sex partner.
Right.
That was not the case, right? It had gotten to a point where I think I got a little afraid of having sex. Because I'm like, oh my God, it's been a while. Like, now I'm kind of self-conscious. I had to be prepared mentally to start back having sex.
Yeah.
And so when I started back having, like, so, all right, I have sex, and then I'm like, damn, I'm kind of sore. My damn leg. Like, now I'm like, shit. Like, now what's finna happen moving forward? Like, what's gonna be the consistency? I don't know what the fuck finna happen, right? Yeah. But I had to, one, be prepared mentally, and two, I had to over trust the person that I started having sex with, because again, mentally, I'm not in a place where I'm like, this the old version of me where it's like, nah, this, this cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had went so long without sex, and I was in a different place mentally last year. So I had to kind of, do some work on myself before I could even, do that. But that was just 9 months for me. You said it's been 2.5 years. So that is a stretch.
It is.
Like,
it is. And I didn't anticipate this. I promise you I didn't go into it, very purposeful, and like it was literally just, I feel like and not to get too spiritual, but like God was showing me things through my dating process. And so it was like, if I can't get to a certain point with a man, how do we ever get to the sex? And I also didn't want to have and that's the thing, with the longer you go without it, the more you kind of start to overthink it, where it's like, if I do this, how am I going to feel after? Am I going to feel like I shouldn't have? Like, I think I've never been somebody who likes to have like sex regret, after the fact. And so, with just not feeling comfortable enough and aligned enough with somebody to go there, I also just kind of, I like you said, I've been thinking about, especially when I do start to like somebody, I'm like, okay, so you should probably start getting yourself mentally prepared for what the sexual portion of this relationship looks like. Just to envision, how are you going to feel about that? How are you going to handle it? But I also like to get, like, I try to check myself to get out of that at times, because it's also like, time just keeps passing. Time will continue to pass. And so, yes, you went 2.5 years. If you do it and it doesn't work out the way that you thought it would, you fuck around and either go 2.5 more, or like, that was the other part in the journey in which I've had sex. I always look for a very open window to continue having sex. Like, especially if it was like a one-off and I'm like, fuck, like, That was one time. Like, I need to try to get it in while, like, before I have to go a long span of time again. And it just didn't work out like that. So I do think that there is clarity that I've gotten from, and that's just, I think I wouldn't even say if that's a lack of sex. I think sometimes just my periods of not dating or and when I think about, people are always like, you ain't got nobody you could go back to and like get some dick. I tried, and parts of that were unsuccessful, either because the men in which I know would do what needs to be done are either in relationships now, or things ended on a note where like ain't no going back to sex. But I also know, again, the connection, chemistry, emotional part of it,
that's a requirement for
will
you.
continue to matter, because I've had times where when I was dealing with somebody, it was a guy I was dealing with in college, and we used to have great sex, amazing sex, and we stopped talking or whatever, and I think maybe like 3 years later I spent the block just on some sex shit, and sex just wasn't as good because we weren't in that space with each other like we were when we used to mess around for real. So I know that's
and
just,
plus
just
like I feel that there was it's crazy because like I have I guess I'll call him an ex, right? I'll call him an ex. I have an ex that I've known since I was 14. And we didn't have sex for the first time until I was in my early 20s. And it was great sex. And then we had sex again like late 20s, and I was like, mid sex. We did the same shit. We did the same shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is it not the same? Why is it not the same? But I don't think it had anything to do with him. I think it was me. I think it was me because I'm different. I'm different. I've experienced more. So it was great for where I was with my experience in my early 20s. Now, where I am now, with the experience I have now.
And that's the thing. The bar gets risen. I look at a lot of, you talk about whole phases. Like I know my whole phase was towards the end of my college experience. And I don't even say like, I think people will take whole phase and run with it. So for me, I'll say what that means for me is just a time in which I feel like I was not as, I didn't vet as much. I didn't hold men to or boys to a certain standard at that time that I would hold them to now. So I was more accessible to certain people who could not touch me with a 10-foot pole at this point in my life.
Agree. So that's honestly how I define it, as you moving how you want to move unapologetically.
It was very much a YOLO.
Yeah.
It was my YOLO era. That's what I call it.
So having a whole face don't mean you fucking any and everybody that want to fuck you. No, exactly. It has nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
I'm in control of this shit. If I want to give it to you, I give it to you. If I don't, I'm straight.
Exactly.
Like we good.
Yeah. I look at it as, that was a part in my life where I racked up more partners than I have ever had in any other phase of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, going through that and got what I got, and then being like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of over that. That was all right for what it was. And then it came to a point where, again, you put yourself in a position. I think shortly after that, I got a boyfriend too. Yeah, I was talking with two people on a pretty serious level, and so like I kind of was easily able to transition out of that. But through my experience, I know that I'm just not a big casual sex sort of gal.
Yeah, and I tell people that part of the intention behind, like, you have to intentionally have a whole phase so that you can learn something specific about yourself from it, right? So that's why, like, even with PrHOEvocative, I say, like, all right, I was like, I'm finna be a hoe. What does that mean? I don't fucking know. I ain't never been a hoe before. I'm new to this shit. Not true to this shit. So I set out on this journey to learn something about myself. And I think that whether that whole phase for you is 3 months or 3 years, you have to be intentional, and you have to be like, all right, this is what I learned about myself and how I view sex in my relationship to sex, right? So if it means that I know, like, no, actually, like you said, I need a emotional connection with somebody to have amazing sex. That's great. The only way for you to find out what you want is find out what the fuck you don't want.
Right. It's
and
to
you
do the opposite of that. It's to not have those things. No, exactly. And I'm just big on doing what works for you. Facts. You know? So if that means that you find guys, you find them attractive, you sleep with them or whatever the case may be, and that's your prerogative, it's cool. Like, if you like to...
But don't force yourself to do anything you don't want to do. And if you don't feel happy with doing it, then just don't.
And I think the worst thing for a woman to feel, in relation to another man is that sex is a burden. Like, I remember being in a relationship in college, and something about him just didn't sit right with my spirit, I think. And then that translated to how our intimacy was. It wasn't bad sex. It just felt like something I didn't want to do.
You were treating it like a chore. And a lot of women view sex as a chore. And anytime you view anything as a chore, like, if you view sex like you view doing laundry, like doing the dishes, like, guess what? You need to...
Yeah, it's not going to be pleasurable for you. And it may be telling you more than you think about the person in which you're sleeping with. Because when we broke up, I was elated. I was like, thank God I ain't got to have sex with that man no more. And again, it wasn't because it was bad. It was just something about him that didn't sit right.
That's how it was
spirit.
With me that's how I be knowing when I'm done with somebody, right?
Oh,
when
I'm
you
like, fuck him no more?
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Easy.
That's the first thing. I'll be like, I still love you. I genuinely still love you, but I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah.
Like, you touch me, I might scream.
Right. And that's why, like, when men be online on these Reddit platforms talking about how their wives don't want to sleep with them, it's like, what are you niggas doing?
I don't think she wants you
your
anymore.
wives don't want to sleep with you. That is a red flag. And it's not a red flag on her. It's a red flag on you. You need to go do some investigation as to why your wife don't want to sleep with you.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I'm that person where it's like, if I don't want to do something, I need to get up out of there.
Yeah.
So I think we need to normalize. Y'all probably gonna hate that I'm saying this. Let's normalize leaving people when you don't want to fuck them no more. Like, let's get up out of there, because you know that if the sex was good, first of all, good sex will keep you in situations you're not supposed to be in.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you take
Lululand.
the
Lululand, like, he ain't that bad. We just don't never go nowhere.
Yeah, like, I know he only see me at night, and I know he still stay with that lady, but it's okay.
It's all right. He makes time when he can.
Right, he makes time for me. We spend all the time together, all the time. Like,
yeah, you got a lot of women. Like, women, you do it right. Like, women lie to themselves.
Yes, so I was on when I was in New York. I was Tahoe, I think it was the So Shameless podcast that I was on. He asked me, he was like, who lied more, women or men? I was like, women. Because we lied our damn selves. Yeah. Like, y'all lie to us, and then we tell ourselves lies on top of the lies you tell us.
Y'all tell them. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, overall, it isn't... I'm excited to re-enter into a sex life at some point. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Are you dating anybody right now?
Nah, I just met somebody new. So I'm like keeping my fingers sort of crossed for that. But definitely just kind of letting things flow, not putting too much pressure. I always go back and forth on if I should tell men that I'm interested in how long I've gone without sex, because you just never know. Are they going to see that as a conquest? Are they going to...
First of all, I'm glad you said that, right? Because I say, don't say shit. Don't say shit. Don't tell him. And this is why I say don't tell him. He gonna think you lying anyway.
And see, that's what's terrible.
You're telling the truth, and he's going to think you're lying anyway. So it don't really matter. And a man is not going to ask you, when was the last time you had sex? When does anybody ever ask you that?
Right.
They're not going to ask you that. Guess what? Don't even tell him. Like, it ain't his business. It is not his business, especially if he don't never get no fucking sex any fucking way. So
exactly.
don't look. It's not like you. The only way I would say tell somebody is if, like, you were intentionally practicing abstinence or celibacy or something like that. No, you're not.
Yeah.
This just so happens to be a extended dry spell. So I wouldn't tell nobody.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying I wouldn't tell anybody if it was you. Now, if it was me, I would tell somebody. Now, Jody would tell somebody only because Jody is sexually frustrated and I want to fuck something. So there's different reasons.
No, I feel you on that. Look, where was you at, Jody? Like all this time when I've been telling these niggas, like, you know, but no, I'm just playing. No, I go back and forth because again, you got to know who you're dealing with. Sometimes, like even to speak to what you said, sometimes if I were to tell a man that and he's like, I don't believe you, like if he verbalized that, I would never give you pussy.
But he's not gonna say it anyway. He's going to
Some
think in the
niggas will.
Yeah, no, for sure. Some niggas will.
Like,
but
what?
a lot
I
of
don't
niggas
even believe that.
No, a lot of niggas in the back of their head, they gonna hear you, but in the back of their head, they like, why the fuck did she just volunteer this lie? Because the bitch gotta be lying. Like, look at her.
So terrible.
And it is terrible because even me, like, I'm pretty sure when I tell people I didn't start having sex until basically Q4 of last year, the end of last year. Motherfuckers like, you lying, you the freako. You're lying. You're lying. You're a sex coach. It ain't nowhere in hell you went 9 months or however long without having sex. And that's me.
Yeah.
So I know they think your ass lying.
See, that's just crazy. Like, I promise you, we started off this conversation saying like the dick don't be dicking the way these niggas think it do. So like it's not that hard to have a couple dry spells, you know?
It's not hard.
And I'll say this too. Like I heard you speak to how you treated your virginity. And of course how you treated your virginity was based on the fact that you're innocent and something was taken from you at a very, very early age. And I used to treat my virginity like it was the best thing in the world. I was the bitch in high school who said I would only have sex until I wouldn't have sex until I was with a boyfriend for at least a year. It was my prized possession. I treated it as such and I had rules for it.
I was 16 talking about 3 months. 3 months.
No, because like you said, for you was like, it didn't need to be special. For me, I was like, when this happens, I want it to be special. I didn't want to be like, you know, and that's not to say everybody around me was hoes, but motherfuckers was fucking. And I wanted to like take pride in it. And I really hope that doesn't come off like internalized misogyny, but I mean, parts of it.
I mean, it might be
back then where like that was because who teaches us that you supposed to value your virginity, right? So all of this has like patriarchic undertones, right? That you don't know until you become of a certain age.
I agree because even with that, even though I was fucking early, I still had boyfriends. Yeah, so I'm having sex with my boyfriend.
Right, it was a commitment.
I was like, okay, yeah. I waited, I didn't wait a year, of course, but I wasn't fucking as soon as, I wasn't fucking as soon as the person said they liked me.
Right.
So I still, you know, like, again, this hierarchical kind of like, actually, it's respectability politics. That's what it comes down to. So feeling like, oh, well, I'm better than this female because I got a boyfriend and I'm not just having sex with anybody. And, you know, meanwhile, she like, no, I'm actually enjoying this. And I'm not. I'm treating it like a fucking chore.
It's a chore, exactly. So the contrast
at the end
of
the
experience.
Day, we still both getting fucked.
Right.
Like,
no, absolutely.
Who's better than who?
Yeah, no, for real. So, and that's something that I just try not to necessarily, even in my spiel, to talk myself into. Again, the bigger thing for me is not having sex regret. So even if the shit never went anywhere, if it was mind-blowing, like, or it was a good time, like, that's worth it to me. Like,
exactly.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Let's make it a good time.
Facts. Oh, man. This was a dope conversation. Yeah. I thought it was cool. If you are listening to this and you are in the Discord, I need y'all to drop feedback. I like hearing from y'all, and if there's anything specific that y'all want to learn about, hear about, of course y'all can always provide that feedback to me. As always, continue to share the episodes with people that you know would enjoy listening to the episodes of PrHOEvocative, right? We are here to educate and entertain y'all, not to slut shame y'all, but y'all could be sluttier, you know, and I'm here to help y'all with that. Like, let's be a little sluttier. Yeah, we can all be sluttier, myself included. So, that's all we got for them. You want to tell the people how they can find you?
Yeah, y'all can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Is all at bringitbrat _ BRINGITBRAT _.
And that's all we got for y'all. We out.